Have you ever had a time where you're telling somebody an embarrassing story and they pull out their phone instead of paying attention? Or maybe you're trying to tell a hilarious joke and the other person is too busy scanning the room for other people they'd rather be talking to. Or maybe you're sharing something really vulnerable and heartfelt with a close friend and you can see it in their eyes that they're just not really paying attention anymore. How did those situations make you feel? You likely felt inadequate or undervalued or underappreciated or worthless. But what about the opposite times? What about when somebody was truly present with you and really listening? Maybe you're telling a story and it's actually kind of boring, and you realize that as it's coming out and you're like, man, this person's probably really tired of listening to me, but you can tell that they're really locked in and engaged with you. Maybe when you get done with your story, they even ask some follow-up questions to kind of round out some of the details that you may have missed or things that were really important to you that you forgot to say. And there's this back and forth exchange, and afterwards you just feel so encouraged and good about yourself. And instead of feeling inadequate, you feel more than adequate. If you can't tell already, listening is a superpower. And there's a few things about listening that make it especially important. Not only does it show that you care, but the demand for attention is getting higher and higher and higher as we have more and more content and things that we can take in. And as a result, the demand for actual listening is going up, but the supply is going down. And that means that if you actually listen to people, then they're going to take notice of that because people don't really do that anymore. You can be the person that really encourages somebody, makes their day, helps them feel loved when nothing else in their week has really gone right. You know, they had a really tough time at work, maybe they had a breakup, they're on the outs with some of their friends, and they're just talking to you about something that they're passionate about, a hobby that they've picked up, and you say, wow, that's really cool. I've never stamp collected before. Tell me about some of the interesting things about it. And they go, wow, nobody cares about my stamp collection. This is great. And you learn a few things from talking to them. And maybe those things aren't interesting enough for you to go out and research them more, but you'll have learned a thing or two and you'll have made somebody's day, or at least really encouraged them in a small way. And by listening to somebody share what they're passionate about or what's going on in their life, and being really focused and in the moment and present with them, listening, you can help them feel like they matter. So I hear what you're saying. Yeah, Andrew, I know that listening is important, and I know that it makes me feel really good when people listen to me, and that when I listen to other people, they feel great, but it's just really hard to listen sometimes, especially when my phone buzzes and I know that there's somebody texting me that I'm really excited to talk to. How do I actually listen? So there's a few things that you can do when you're in a conversation with somebody. When you feel your mind start to wander, you know, they're talking about their stamp collection and you go, oh man, I don't really care about stamps. What about that game last night? Or what about, and you go, no. Focus on what they're saying. I know that's pretty obvious, so one that's a little bit more helpful is when you're listening to somebody, be on the lookout for things that you're interested in, little overlaps in interest, right? Like if somebody's talking about their stamp collection and they say, oh yeah, I got this while I was traveling to the Grand Canyon, and you go, whoa, I love the Grand Canyon. It's so beautiful. I love the national parks, or I love mountains, or I love scenery, or I love traveling. Tell me more about your trip. And when you're listening for things that pique your interest, that can have some commonality, then that helps you to listen better to them and helps them feel more engaged in that conversation that they're having with you. And a third little trick is to remember while you're having a conversation, if you're starting to drift and you can't really find anything interesting that you want to reflect back at them and learn more about, then just remember, if nothing else, that helping them feel listened to is going to make such a big difference. I know I've already said that, but it's going to make such a big difference for somebody who needs it. You know, there's those people that you interact with. Sometimes you run into somebody at the grocery store and they just talk and you've never met them before. They probably just need an outlet, somebody to talk to, and you can be that person for them. Obviously, if you have other things to do and they're trying to talk to you for an hour, you have to find ways to get out of that conversation. That's a video for another time. But listening is such a superpower. It makes people feel good about themselves. When people listen to you, you feel good about yourself, and you can give that gift to other people. So I want you to comment below with the name of somebody you're going to try to listen to better. Just one person that you're going to try to listen to better this week that you know you're going to interact with. And maybe you don't always listen to them very well, whether it's a really good friend that sometimes just goes on, or a coworker at work who doesn't necessarily have the most interesting hobbies. Just pick one person that you're going to have a really focused, engaged conversation where you listen the whole time. So let me know that. And I don't think it'll be as bad as you might think. And once you've seen how good that interaction goes with somebody who may be kind of boring or you don't like listening to, then that'll help you start the habit to listen in more and more conversations as you see the effects that it has in those interactions. That's all for now. See you next week.